welcome to the Pearl Report. I'm Diana Lin. Wearable devices can track anything from the steps we take to how many calories we burn. They come in the form of watches, clothing, eyeglasses, etc., embedded with sensors. Our body is the source of data. As producer Renato Reyes reports, wearable technology has spawned a trend in quantifiers and raised new concerns about privacy. Bak Tam Chung in Sai Kung and the annual HK 100 marathon along the McLehose Trail.
Feeling really good. It's my third time, so I'm looking for hopefully a better time. My name is Joel LaBelle. I go by Jogger Joel as a sporting individual. I'm sort of a professional amateur endurance athlete. Water point. First checkpoint. I'm a programmer. I have a startup company. I found myself a lot of times being in the office, so it was really great to be able to complete the office job and then go outside and do a run. Great beach! And then that's how I basically got into the endurance sport. I've been doing that for about 5 years.
Joe uses an array of gadgets to help him train.
The sport that I'm doing right now is triathlon. I have 6 devices right now. I have a power meter connected to my computer, which is transferred to my phone. Also the watch, I have a heart rate monitor when I'm running a foot pod.
His gadgets track a range of data.
The route I've taken, it will also track elevation, the force of your pedaling, how many strokes I've taken, distance, speed. It took me 1 kilometer, 5 minutes. How many calories I've approximately burned. My average strikes per minute with my foot. The temperature, my heart rate. When I'm swimming, it will track stroke count.
All the data are transferred by Bluetooth to his phone.
Those numbers will help guide how you're progressing. Before I had this devices, you just really had to go on feel to listen to your body. Basically what I like to do is I like to run the same route. And I will do this route over several courses of several months. And by using the numbers, I can see how fit I am. And I'll use the numbers to gauge if I am training too hard or not enough.
Joel is part of a growing culture that began in the United States, the quantified self movement. Spawned by what's forecast to be the next biggest trend in technology today.
The wearable device is going that way. Everybody that is friends with me have usually a device. They love it because you can take the device wherever you go and then magically it will compute.
A whole cohort of people right now who are obsessed with measuring every small detail of their behavior. There is going to be no limit to the type of sensor technologies. Not just sensors that are aware of our external location, the ambient temperature, are we up or down, how fast are we moving, but things that are biometric to us. What's our heart rate? What's our hydration levels? What's our blood sugar levels? Are we excited? Are we angry? Are we peaceful?
You can detect your emotion, measure your temperature and heartbeat rate, make a judgment. Today you're feeling 200% depressed, 18% feel happy.
Wearables come in watches that notify people of incoming calls or text, wristbands and earbuds that track a range of physical activities, shoes that help diabetics avoid foot ulcers, even a dog collar that sends a pet's location to its owner's mobile phone.
Every 5 minutes, you say, okay, I'm in here now, send onto the internet. I'm in Hong Kong now, I can see my dog in Taiwan.
The global market for wearables is forecast to reach $30 billion by 2018.
We describe Hong Kong as an early adopter market because of the kind of that confluence of high consumer incomes, but also high consumer engagement in all things technology. We want to be the first to adopt, the first to impress our peers with these new devices.
You can actually see the days that you had the most sleep very quickly.
Gary Jackson is a data analytics expert.
Let's see if it correlates to the amount of calories that you consume that day.
He makes software applications that help companies get business insights from their big data.
I do analytics. I tell stories with data by mashing it together and being able to see what is the pattern that creates, that actually tells a story about what I do.
The trouble with wearables, he says, is they just count, but can't cross-reference and interpret data yet.
A lot of quantifiers are getting data from different sources but can't visualize it together. Everything is a number. My heartbeat is this, my weight is this, my number of footsteps. Breaking data into different departments. True analytics is about finding a pattern, about mashing them out, the amount of sleep that someone has, the amount of calories burned, physical activity, to give a whole picture of a person. This is what's missing in wearables today. What people want to see is the whole picture of them. Data is becoming that reflection point. Data is becoming the new mirror. I've actually wearing Google Glass. If I lift my head up, it actually turns on, activate. I can record a video. So I'm basically a walking CCTV. And that's a big concern for people. People treat you differently when you're wearing a wearable. Should I record you? No, I guess that's too bad, right? Yeah. Okay, I'll take it off. If there's something that needs to be discussed or it's privately, as etiquette, I do remove it and I sit it down. I have two devices now. I'm wearing one on my head and I have one on my wrist. The one on my wrist is actually more powerful and more scary. That also opens up the door for this issue around privacy.
If somebody walks around with a video camera, we can see it, we can ask them to turn it off.
Professor John Bacon-Shon is a former chairman of the Law Reform Commission's subcommittee on privacy.
One of the issues that makes me personally uncomfortable about Google Glass is that whether or not you've got Google Glass turned on or not, I don't know.
In 2006, Bacon-Shon's subcommittee proposed to make a criminal offence of secret filming of ordinary citizens inside or outside private premises.
Arguably, this is not fair data collection, but one of the pieces of legislation we asked the government to deal with, which they have done nothing about, is surveillance other than law enforcement.
He notes people who become aware of being filmed can ask the Privacy Commissioner to issue an enforcement notice to stop the filming, but that comes only after an investigation.
Well, he can say, this is in breach of the data protection law, don't do it again. But, you know, if your pictures are already spread over all the newspapers, it's a bit late. There's nothing much you can do about it that time. I'm in favour of some restrictions on covert surveillance.
Even more controversial, where do the data collected by wearable devices go?
This is a 15.5-kilometre swim.
Bruce Pye uses a watch to track his swim in this charity fundraiser.
A 5-day event, so we were swimming over 15 k's a day. Here's our Google map. We've swum from the southern tip of Lantau Island to just past Puyo Beach.
Bruce works for a brand of watches that tracks physical activity, including location. Every time users access maps on the watch, the device stores their location in a central database. The watchmaker can sell the data to third parties, such as an energy drinks company, that use them to identify potential markets, but only with users' consent.
You've got opt-in options where you opt in and you can share your data with the public, very similar to Facebook and other programs that are out there at the moment. It's an opt-in and opt-out function. Obviously, there's no tracking of names.
Under current data protection laws, consumers can choose to share or not to share their information online, or later to opt out and ask for their stored material to be deleted. But what if the data has already been passed on or sold?
I think there are definitely issues there. Essentially, the retrospective part, going back and saying, I want the data deleted, not just from whom I originally gave it to, but from third parties they transferred it to. So I think that there are some weaknesses in the law. Once it is collected and transferred, it may be very hard for you to track its destination.
Coming up after the break, what's keeping wearables from winning over consumers?
The market is at its infancy. There's no killer app yet.
Wearables is the trend. Just what form of wearables and how it's going to be is a question mark.
So what forms would they take?
Combine the modern microelectronics to clothing.
Technology that's become dispersed across our entire bodies.
More on that after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Pearl Report. A small but growing wearable technology industry is emerging locally, all chasing the same element that made smartphones resonate with consumers: killer apps. Applications that can track physical activity as well as biometric data such as blood pressure and alert us before we get sick. Jody Chan is a student and an avid jogger.
Because if I want to keep fit, I will run twice a week.
Always with her earphone.
The music can encourage me to run faster.
But this earphone delivers more than music. It counts her heart rate as well. The earbuds beam an infrared light on blood vessels of the ear.
By measuring the pulses that comes back, we can actually measure what is your heart rate.
The data goes to Jody's phone through Bluetooth and tells her if her heart rate is in the right zone for slimming down.
For example, if you want to just do a fat burn and then you are missing it and you're almost going to the muscle build zone, then the device can inform you. So all these analytics right now, but again, is at a very simple stage. No, let's change a different angle. Actually, can we add LED behind this to make it shine?
Carl's startup company makes heart rate monitoring software that he sells to earphone manufacturers. It's an app installed in a smartphone that connects to the earbud.
We are targeting at fitness and health-conscious people. Research has that when you exercise and listen to music, it in a way lessens your pain. We like to embed our technology in a piece of electronics device that people are used to carrying around with them.
Hearables are the next wearables.
His technology debuted at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas last month.
One of the biggest, if not the biggest, consumer electronics show in the whole world. The attendance is in excess of about 300,000 people. One of our first customer actually launched a product that won a few awards at the Consumer Electronics Show.
Carl's company is one of 50 in Hong Kong developing wearables. He says they are missing the one thing that would make them click with consumers.
They need to figure out killer apps.
For Carl, it's an earbud that can detect posture-related problems by installing a tiny accelerometer chip to measure the tilt of the head.
Normally people will not walk around with a head that is tilted, unless somehow you are feeling some problem with your knee and then your running posture is itself not straight. 2 years ago, most of us never heard of what is a wearable. Right now, the problem with wearable is that it is at its infancy. It is too premature.
In terms of how many people actually need and use it. The other one is, of course, the applications right now, because smartphones are really smart devices, but without the applications, they're kind of useless. And the same is true for wearables.
Yatsiu is an early adopter of wearable technology, which is only 2 years old.
I love gadgets, bit of a geek that way.
He bought his Google Glass last year. The device is activated by voice or touch and can access the internet.
In terms of the speed in which it can do the voice recognition is quite impressive.
Okay, glass. Google Maps.
If I'm bicycling, I basically need, let's say I need maps. For day-to-day use, I haven't really found that much practical use. It's a great experimental beta product, but I don't think it has, for the mass consumer, the price is a bit more than 10,000 Hong Kong, 11,000 Hong Kong. So yes, it is, basically it's the cost of a computer. So I would say it is expensive. The battery life is a big weakness, about 2 to 3 hours tops.
Last month, Google announced it had stopped making Google Glass for consumers, but it promised to supply the device to developers who make apps for it.
Where I found Google Glass to be useful for is any activity that was hands-free. Let's say logistics, delivery. Sometimes you're carrying stuff, sometimes your hands are busy, where you need fast information quick.
Wearables in general has been in the early stage for quite some time. I think since its inception, I think many things still need to happen for it to become mainstream.
Where it becomes really interesting is if it can do applications in healthcare. For instance, if you suddenly have heart trouble or something, it's not just enough that the device itself will actually tell you, you have heart problems, but actually it will then send a message to a physician.
And doctors can warn the patient earlier. 有邊度痛嚟㗎？唔痛。呢度咧？唔痛。不呢度不嬲唔痛嘅，冇嘢。係啊，就係因為啲感覺差咗嘛。
Dr. Andrew Yip is an orthopedic surgeon at Kwong Wah Hospital. Mr. Wan has diabetes. 10% of diabetics in Hong Kong are prone to peripheral neuropathy that damages sensory nerves in the lower limbs.
Sensory sensation over the foot is impaired, in which they might have a chance of small abrasion and afterwards develop ulcer, in which they don't know.
A security guard, Mr. Wan patrols residential estates on foot. He developed ulcers near his big toe in 1995, but didn't notice them until they and required surgery a year later.
I feel there's a hole in my foot. It doesn't hurt. It's not like there's no feeling. I work as usual.
Now Mr. Wan is trying on a new wearable device being clinically tested at Kwong Wah Hospital to help prevent the ulcers from recurring. The eye shoes have 8 sensors in the insole that detect foot pressure. The data is transmitted by Bluetooth to a smartphone. The area near Mr. Wan's big toe registers the most pressure.
There is a very high pressure, especially over the first metatarsal head area, in which he has a previous ulceration.
A specially made insole is designed to offload the pressure near Mr. Wan's big toe.
The pressure is distributed to other areas of the foot rather than that area.
The conventional way to measure foot pressure is to make diabetics stand on an electronic pressure mat, just once.
Right. For one step only. The eye shoes is better because eye shoes can measure a continuous plantar pressure while you are walking and upslope, and also when you are walking upstairs.
What you're going to find is clothing becomes a new wearable device, the network, if you will, of bringing all these things together.
Combine the modern microelectronics to clothing. The vest will give several measurements.
Professor Tao Xiaoming specializes in textile and nanotechnology. This is a prototype of a vest designed to host a range of sensors. It's made out of this fabric.
You can see it's very stretchable.
It's made of tiny sensors that tracks breathing rate every time it's stretched.
Smaller than hair. This hair is about 70 to 80 micron, but the fiber we used here is about 20 micron. So 1/4, a quarter of the human hair. That is nanotechnology. It also can be washed and can wear for a long time. Using a piece of garment, you can easily incorporate all these sensing functions into this piece of vest. This is putting on the arm.
That includes sensors for electromyography or EMG that tracks muscle contraction.
Training muscles for bodybuilder.
A pressure sensor to help the bedridden.
You have also all the sores. So every 15 minutes, you're supposed to move your body from one side. This one can give an indication to say, hey, you have to move now.
And sensors for temperature, as well as crucial biometric data that can save lives. Electrocardiogram or ECG.
The ECG signals are really used by medical doctors to see whether you have a heart problem.
These cables on the vest are ECG electrodes attached to the skin around the heart area.
I find it's very bulky.
It is, yeah.
There are a lot of cables. It's probably not very comfortable to wear.
This is a very early version. Probably now is 7 or 8 years old. And that time is we just designed this garment to see whether it works or not.
In the future version of this, that bulky box
will be replaced. Something similar to that size. This is a data acquisition unit.
The small box powers the ECG sensor, collects the data, and even wirelessly sends them directly to a doctor via the internet.
It tells me and analyzes what's going on. It may actually send an alert to the doctor first, and the doctor will call you up and say, "Hey, I'm seeing your data, and things don't look so good today. You okay? Is everything all right? Do you want to come in?" At the moment, what does the doctor have to diagnose you? You come in. I have a cough. I look at you, right? And he gets it right most of the time, but he doesn't know your history for the last 5 days. He can't see any of that. If you share that kind of information given to an expert, he can do, I think, a lot more with it and be much more effective with it. There's never been a time in life where we've had so much data about ourselves. The potential of big data is massive.
For instance, the old people will start to have a heart problem. In Hong Kong, whether this age, say 60, is faster or then slower than Japan or other places, whether the public health need to put more resources in this or not.
What's going to happen is that at some point it's going to become clear that consumers have adopted these technologies and use them in a way that we perhaps didn't expect. And the smart companies will follow that behavior. We're really, I think, at the very brink of a complete revolution.
Well, thank you for watching our show. Until next time, from the Pearl Report team, good night, good luck, and good health.